Hi, everyone. It is Kimber, the Study Abroad Specialist, and welcome to day 9 of the Learn How to Study Abroad in 30 Days series. If this is your first video that you're interacting with the series, I would highly recommend that you start with videos 1 through 8 just to get caught up on everything. Today, we are talking about organization, specifically for your applications. With this particular process, it can feel a little bit overwhelming, especially if you are applying to lots of different programs because there are different deadlines, different needs for each application. And so we want to make sure that you stay as organized as possible. We're going to head into day 9 now. All right, everyone. So welcome to day 9. We are talking about application organization today. So if you are someone who is a type A like me and you love organization sort of like me, then this is definitely going to be a fun video for you. If you have not viewed the other videos in this series, definitely check those out after you finish this one. So when it comes to organizing your study abroad applications, this is going to be very pivotal to you because you're going to want to get, the most out of everything that you're doing and make sure that your efforts are aligned. And so you're going to want to keep track of how many programs you're applying for. You're going to want to keep track of where they are, when you need to turn in different things, what the deadline is for your transcripts, for your letters of recommendations, all these fun things that you have to do for your applications. And the only way to do that is to be organized. I have rarely seen it work out well for people who are not organized. And as I've said in previous videos, there are some people like me who we like to have everything still on paper. I mean, I have a whole stack of Post-its right now that I have just different notes on for different things. That's how I kind of work. There are some people who they like to use everything on their phone. There's no right or wrong answer. However you like to organize, this is going to be a pivotal moment where you need to do that. Keeping in mind, as we have already talked about, that there are different application platforms for each, program that you might be applying to. There's different requirements. So you're going to need to stay organized. So you want to come up with a system that is going to work for you in terms of actually organizing all the information and then starting to think about how you're going to be tackling that. So maybe it's something where you say, every evening between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m., this is when I work on my study abroad applications. This is what I'm doing. Or you could block it out and say that I want to start first with the essays. And so you start first with that and then you move on to something else. It's really going to be up to you how you want to do it. But you want to come up with a system that is going to be realistic. You don't want to create something that's going to be overwhelming either because you're not going to stick to it. That's just how the brain works. It's like, you kind of come up with something, you're like, oh yeah, I get going. And then 5 days later, you're like, I don't remember what I did. So you don't want to do that. You want to do something that's going to work within the schedule that you already have and at the time that you already have. That's also going to be aligned with what you need to do because, of course, most of the programs have deadlines as well. So just keep that in mind and start thinking about what your system should be. So how many programs should I apply for? So this is a question that I get from students all the time when I'm advising them, particularly when we first start working together and they think about what they want to do. So I have some guidelines here. It is really up to you. I always like to start with a baseline of, it's a little bit different depending on what level you're at. When you're, let's say if you're in high school and you're applying to a private school, here in the U.S. or a public school if you're in different parts of the world and you want to apply to maybe 2 or 3 different schools, that's one thing. However, as you sort of go along in your journey, you may find that for college, you want to apply to multiple programs. I know that here in the U.S. particularly, that is something that most of us do. I know that there are some parts of the world where there's more of a centralized application process. And so you just fill out one application and that goes out to different schools. That is a blessing. For you, it's less work for you. And so you may want to just think about it in that way. And then when you get to graduate school, maybe you're doing a lot more. So it really is up to you and what you feel is going to be most feasible. Again, keeping in mind your organization and how much you think you can take on. If you feel like you can apply for 10 programs, then go for it. If you feel like you can apply for 12 programs, then go for it. If you feel like 1 or 2 is all that's going to work for you, then definitely do that as well. So for fall or semester programs, I said that 1 to 4 tends to be pretty reasonable. That's pretty standard for what a lot of students do. Tending to think about different locations. A lot of students tend to have one location in mind where they really want to study abroad, but then they want to diversify a little bit and say, well, if I don't get into either of these programs here, then I'd be just as happy going to this place or that place. So I think 1 to 4 programs is great if you're doing a semester-long program. If you are doing a Maymester program, and if you don't know what Maymester is, I did a couple of videos on Maymesters on my channel, so I can link that below. But Maymester programs are programs that specifically happen in May, and they take place all around the world. And so with those, they tend to be a lot shorter, but they tend to be a lot more focused, hyper-focused on things. So I said that 3 to 4 programs for a Maymester might work out for you. There are some students that I've known that have done back-to-back Maymesters, which is quite cool, where they've had some programs that have maybe run for 1 week in May or 2 weeks, and then they get to do another one that runs for maybe 3 weeks and extends into June. So there's lots of different options out there. So maybe for a Maymester, you do 3 to 4. For summer programs, 2 to 3, just because it's a little bit longer than a Maymester, but a little bit shorter than the fall or spring semester. So maybe just 2 to 3. And again, sort of thinking in that mindset of different locations to increase your odds. For degree programs abroad, I said for coming to the U.S., that you would probably want to choose 5 to 7. That is pretty common for most U.S. students. That's pretty much what we do. Even for myself, full disclosure here, when I was going abroad, I've talked about this in a different video, I applied for over 25 different graduate programs. So a little bit ambitious there, and got into most of them except for 2. I got into all of them, but 2 of them I could not do for different reasons. So I technically got into all of them, but you know, I actually had a lot of time on my hands because I was in my last semester of undergrad. I had 1 class per week that semester on a Wednesday night. So I was flying high and fine to kind of do whatever I wanted. So I had the time on my hands to fill out all these applications and go around and get the transcripts and all of that. But I know that a lot of you out there are more busy and have more of a life than I did. So if you're applying for a degree program that is abroad, particularly coming to the U.S., you will want to consider probably 5 to 7. And again, that's based on the fact that we have so many different colleges and universities here in so many different places. And, you know, you will never get to see all of the U.S. probably, but you probably have an idea of where you want to go. And so you just want to hedge your bets, whether it's going to be all in the same state or whether it's going to be in a variety of different states. 5 to 7 seems pretty reasonable for a full degree program. So this is talking about students who want to come to the U.S., let's say, for an undergraduate degree where you're going to be spending 4 years, or for a grad degree that could be for 2 to 3 years. So this is for your long-term types of programs coming to the U.S. Similarly, if you are if you're going away from the U.S., or if you are not applying to the U.S. anyway and you're going to a different country, I would say that 4 to 5 programs works out fine. Again, a lot of countries have more centralized systems where you don't have to worry about individualized programs. I'm thinking like the UCAS system over in the UK, which I know a lot of students can use, not American students, but a lot of other students can use that system. And there's lots of other schools that sort of have that. So you don't have to be like me and apply for over 20 programs, but you can if you want to, and if you feel like you have the bandwidth to do that. Just keeping in mind that particularly here in the U.S., there tend to be application fees. So that, again, is something that you will want to factor in. In a lot of other countries, they don't have that. It's free to apply. But in a lot of U.S. schools, there's application fees. And, of course, things like the SAT, the GRE, all these different acronyms that you've probably heard so much about. So you'll just want to keep that in mind as well, that you will need that for each of your applications. And so I hope that these ideas were helpful for you. I know that there are some people out there who are more paper-based and they like to plan things by paper. I'm definitely like that. I have Post-its and paper everywhere. It drives people crazy, that I know. And then there's some people who are more digital-based. They like to plan everything from a digital perspective. However you like to do it, you're going to need to definitely plan and organize to make sure that you keep all of your applications in a centralized place. You know where everything is. And so I do have a freebie to share with you. This is a Google Sheets based template that I have used with a lot of the students that I advise. And this is just going to help you to have a specific place where you kind of keep everything in line, so you kind of know, when is my application due? What is the application? What do I need to include with it? And how am I going to need to send it? All these things you're going to need. You can stay organized and make sure that each part of your study abroad application process runs smoothly for each program. So be sure to look in the description box to access this template, and I will see you tomorrow for day 10.